Okay, so welcome back. Today I'm actually going to talk about two different lenses that I picked up that were kind of out of left field for me because when I got into the Fuji system, I didn't really necessarily look at these focal lengths for this system or these particular lenses. The other lenses that I've already purchased were the ones that I was kind of like tracking a little bit more. Just so you know, I'm actually filming on my new camera, which is the used X-M5 I picked up for pretty cheap. And I'm actually shooting in 4K. I'm actually using the vlog mode, but I have it turned, I'm actually behind the camera. And then I have the front facing and the rear facing internal mics on. So feel free to give me feedback on how it sounds, how it looks, and we're gonna get right into it. I also got the product priority for autofocus turned on. So what I'll probably do when I start talking about these, I'll move one out of the way just to try to not challenge it too much. So I'll tell you what, let's just start with the Fuji X-T3 that's gonna have the Fuji WR16 f2 lens on it. This is a lens that actually is funny because the way I got to 16 millimeters was before I was getting ready to go travel out of the country. I knew I was going to take some primes with me. I kind of wanted to see which prime I should take. So what I ended up doing is I took my kit lens, the 1815 55 millimeter, which I never really do for nighttime photography because it's not a constant f-stop of a 2.8, but I took it downtown, walked around and shot just to see which one I kind of preferred. If I preferred that wider lens or I preferred something that was a little bit tighter. And what I found, I ended up shooting all the way through the range. So from 88 all the way up to 55. 55 was just not for me. Neither was anything above 35. But what I found is my preference really was about 18 millimeters because that was as wide as that lens could go. So I thought, well, maybe I'll focus on getting something in that particular focal length or a slightly wider. So when I came back and did my research, I found that there was an 18 millimeter, very old Fuji lens that was still kind of overpriced because there's a Fuji tax on everything. And then it also had terrible autofocus from what I read. And that's one of the reasons why I got rid of the original 27 millimeter I picked up from Fuji WR and replaced it with actually the lens I'm using right now, which is the TT Artisan 27 millimeter 2.8. And if the 18 millimeter, the older one was worse than that, I didn't want it. But then I found this lens. I knew nothing about the 16 millimeter WR lens. And I feel like not very many other people did because it was reflected in the price. I think I got this lens for right around 200 and some change, which was crazy to me. Yes, it's not a 2.0, but it is weather resistant. And I mean, it's solid. I mean, if you ever own one of these lenses, then you know that these things are built really, really well. You of course get your aperture ring. I actually have a Pro Mist filter on there. One of the reasons why I actually keep filters on my lenses isn't necessarily for the look, although I do like that kind of bloom effect. But I also like to protect my glass. So that's why it's on here. If I could have found a wrap that I like for this lens, it would be wrapped. Just like I put wraps on my body and I have other lenses with wraps. But at this point, I can't seem to find one that I actually dig. So plus I really like the silver, but I'm just being careful with it. Eventually I will wrap it. But man, this thing is amazing. When I took it with me overseas, I will tell you, it didn't really leave my camera. I actually took the X-T30, which I ended up getting rid of because I stopped using it and started using this body primarily while I was there with this lens. I also used the TT Artisan too, but this lens was like the one that probably 75% of the photos, I'll put up some that you're going to see on this video, they were taken with this. And I was extremely happy. So if you got any questions about this, feel free. Like I said, before the prices go up and people start discovering, I would highly recommend pick this bad boy up because it is amazing. All right, I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to jump over to the other lens. It's this guy. All right. So this is one I had no idea about. And I think that one of the reasons why this one may not have been as popular is because it does not have an aperture ring on it. I watched a really awesome review by Christopher Frost. By the way, if you're not watching that dude, watch him. Great channel, awesome reviews, very detailed. And he reviewed this lens. He said it was a great lens, but it was hard to recommend because the Viltrox, I think it's the 75 millimeter or 85 millimeter 1.2 exists. Now, I probably should explain that he said that because the price of that Viltrox was about $580. This lens was about $499. And at that f1.2 that you get, it's bigger, much bigger lens than this thing is. I can see that argument. However, over Christmas, this thing dropped to $299. I had to pick it up, at least try it, and I'm glad that I did. This, for me, was the perfect focal length. Now, the main reason why I bought this lens was I took the kit lens to my daughter's wrestling events, and I found that the reach just wasn't enough. So I wanted to go a little bit further than the 55 millimeter, and I felt like the 75 millimeter or the 100 millimeter equivalent would be just right since I'm on the floor near the mats and I'm shooting. And lo and behold, I was right about that. Now, I'm not going to put up any of those images because this is high school sports, and I prefer not to put up photos of athletes that are actually under the age of 18 on my channel. But needless to say, what I will say is this thing, it doesn't miss. The autofocus is really, really fast. I would argue that this is probably my fastest lens out of all of my, and this is the Fuji lenses. This is faster than those. It's really quick. And that was one of the things with the Viltrox is it has a different motor. I think it's an STM motor. So my understanding is that lens would actually be slower, and I didn't need that. I needed something that I needed it to be fast. So, high shutter speeds. Really, when I say high, I'm seeing like, 320, maybe 1/500. That's about what I'm shooting with this lens because it's generally pretty bright. However, if you watch wrestling, sometimes they actually dull the lights for duels. So that was the other reason why I got this lens, is because at that 1.8, it still gave me enough light to not have to worry about getting the proper image. So yeah, this is a great lens. Like I said, at $299, highly recommended. Or if you could pick it up like used, you'd be crazy not to get it. I think it's a great lens. There's a switch. There's some things with the switch that you can't do in video, or you can only use it for in video. And then I forget exactly what they are because I really don't use it. What I normally do with this lens is I shoot everything in manual. My dials, I have enough on my X-T3 where I can use the front dial for aperture, the rear dial for shutter speed, and I'm off to the races. Throw on autofocus, and it performs well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. I would probably end with if you have any comments on the video, and I mean the actual footage out of this camera. By the way, I have it in Relia Ace as well. Feel free to leave that in the comments too, or anything about either this lens or this lens. Same thing, leave it in the comment. But I highly recommend these lenses. These are like some super cheap lenses that are special in my opinion. But other than that, click like, subscribe, and Agent Fitz signing out.